The sun had not yet set over the hills of Owerokokwa when a black Lexus SUV cruised slowly into the village, raising fine dust behind its tinted windows. Elder women in wrappers whispered and pointed at the driver, a man in a red cap and gold wristwatch who waved regally as though he was a king. This was Chief Uzochukwu Madu, also known as Igo, the man whose name was feared more than respected. He was 65, but his skin glowed like that of a 40-year-old, and every December, he returned from his so-called vacations abroad, his pockets heavy with foreign money and his bodyguards wearing dark glasses. Many knew him, but few knew him truly. The villagers often joked that he bathed in pounds and dollars, but no one dared question how he came by his wealth. They only saw the aftermath. Young girls who once followed him around would return months later broken, sick, barren, or dead. But because he built schools and donated to the church, the people turned blind eyes. What they didn't know was that Chief Uzochukwu had long struck a deal with darkness, a powerful charm given to him by an ancient dibia in Neni. The charm required one thing, the destiny of young, pure girls. Each year, he was to renew his wealth by offering the soul of a girl before the new moon in December. Their glory would be transferred to him, and he would rise again. That night, as he sat in his mansion built in the heart of the village, sipping palm wine and watching the fireflies dance outside his balcony, his eyes settled on a photo of his children abroad. "They will never lack," he muttered, smiling, "so long as I do what is needed." But something in the air felt different this time, something he couldn't explain. He felt a chill, not from harm, but from something greater, like a silent watcher waiting for judgment. In a quiet corner of Umoji village, far from the wealth and noise of Chief Uzochukwu's compound, sat an old mud house with smoke rising gently from its thatched roof. Inside, an ancient woman sat cross-legged before a clay pot, murmuring into it while grinding bitter kola with her bare hands. Her name was Mama Moha, and she was feared just as much as she was respected. Some called her Agodinwani Nerumio, the woman who speaks to spirits. Others called her mad, but only fools ignored her warnings. That evening, while pounding herbs, she suddenly paused. Her milky eyes turned toward the doorway though no one had entered. Her granddaughter, Adogo, sat nearby, weaving her hair silently, unaware of what her grandmother saw. Then Mama Moha spoke, her voice distant and cold. "He has returned. The one who swallows destinies like fufu. The owl does not fly in the day unless something is wrong. The girl child must not walk into his shadow." Adogo looked up, startled. "Mama, who are you talking about?" The old woman didn't respond. Instead, she leaned closer to the fire and spat into the flames. They hissed violently as if reacting to an unseen enemy. Mama Mooha knew what was coming. Her dreams had been filled with the cries of dead maidens and the face of a man whose smile was soaked in blood. She had fought such darkness before, many years ago. She lost her sister to it. Now it was returning, in the form of a man dressed like royalty but carrying the spirit of an animal. She looked at Adogo, her only grandchild, the last female of their bloodline, and felt a strange tremble in her chest. The battle was coming, and the gods had already chosen sides. She would protect the girl even if it meant using the last of her powers. But the enemy was clever, and this time, he had returned with deeper hunger. The village square was alive with music that night. Drummers beat the ojin and udu, dancers swirled in colorful wrappers, and palm wine flowed freely at the annual Ofola festival. It was the perfect cover for Chief Uzochukwu's next hunt. His arrival at the festival was like that of a governor, his agbode flowing behind him, his gold-tipped cane tapping the ground in rhythm with his steps. He greeted the elders with 2 hands and handed out bundles of naira notes like candy. Women laughed louder when he passed, girls battered their lashes, and boys pointed, whispering, "That's the man that lives in London." But behind the smiles was a monster with a mission. He was searching for a girl whose star shone brightly but had not yet been used. Then he saw her. Adogo stood near the edge of the gathering, holding a calabash of palm wine for her grandmother. She was not like the others. Her beauty was quiet, her eyes deep like a river that had seen many storms. She wore no makeup, no jewelry, yet she glowed like the moon on water. Chief Yuzachuku froze. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His charm reacted violently under his skin. This was the one. The gods inside him stirred with greed. They wanted her. The transfer of destiny required purity, untouched spirit, and this girl had it in full. But as he stepped forward, a strange force pushed him back. His hand trembled. His charm blinked red in his ring. He quickly hid it in his pocket and forced a smile. "Nwa Oma," he said softly, approaching her, "you are like a flower in the desert. What is your name?" Adogo looked at him curiously but said nothing. Then, her grandmother appeared behind her like a shadow from the forest. "She is not for sale," Mama Moha said with a firm voice, her old eyes staring deep into his soul. Yuzachuku chuckled nervously. "I was just greeting her, Mama. No harm in that." But as he turned away, something cold wrapped around his heart. He knew that old woman. She was the last daughter of the NRI priesthood. His charm had warned him about her bloodline. And now, she stood between him and the prize he needed most. For the first time in years, fear crawled down his spine. That same night, Chief Yuzachuku couldn't sleep. His body was hot, but the room was cold. He tossed on his large foreign bed, his silk bedsheets soaked in sweat. At 3 a.m., he stood up and walked to the wooden chest at the foot of his bed. He opened it slowly, revealing ancient items wrapped in red cloth, cowries, bones, black soap, a small calabash filled with blood from past rituals, and the sacred mirror given to him by the Dibia in Neni. He lit a black candle and placed the mirror on the floor. Sitting cross-legged, he rubbed white chalk across his forehead and chanted an incantation he hadn't said in months. The mirror began to glow red. "Why did the charm reject her?" he asked, sweating. "Why was I pushed back?" The mirror cracked slightly, and then the voice came. Low, deep, ancient. "She is protected. Her bloodline is older than your charm. Her grandmother bears the spirit of the gatekeeper. She walks with those who cannot die." Yuzachuku's hands began to shake. "But I need her destiny. The others are fading. My accounts are draining. My enemies are mocking me. The charm must be renewed before the new moon." The voice growled in warning. "Then you must break the protection first. Distract the girl. Separate her from the old woman. The gate must be opened before the sacrifice is taken." Yuzachuku stood up, wiping the sweat from his brow. He walked to the window and stared into the darkness beyond the trees. He had never failed a ritual before. Every December, he took what he needed, a girl from the village, usually naive, hungry, or desperate for help. This one was different. She wasn't even attracted to wealth. Her aura carried something strange, almost holy. And that grandmother, he remembered her now. The stories his Dibia told him years ago. The priestess who stopped the harvesting of twins in Ojidai, who buried her own daughter to seal a covenant with the gods. It made sense now. But time was not on his side. His money had started vanishing mysteriously from his foreign accounts. His foreign stocks were crumbling. His last charm had warned him that he had until the night of the blood moon, just 2 weeks away, or else his body would begin to decay, starting from his right hand. He clenched his fist. His right hand already tingled. He had to act fast. He had to separate the girl from the woman. He had to break the bond. The next morning brought a calmness that felt strange, like the silence that comes before a storm. Birds sang, market women shouted prices from roadside stalls, and the village children ran around chasing tires with sticks. Life continued as usual, but for Adogo, something in her spirit felt unsettled. Her grandmother had been quiet since the festival. She didn't cook, didn't speak, and instead sat under the big udala tree behind the house, drawing strange symbols into the earth with a broomstick. Adogo watched her, unsure whether to be concerned or afraid. She remembered how the old woman appeared from nowhere the night before when that man in Agbode came to speak to her. Something about that man disturbed her deeply. He looked charming, yes. Powerful, yes. But beneath his warm smile, Adogo had sensed a shadow, a darkness, something that whispered danger. While she was still thinking, a loud knock came at the door. Adogo peeped through the window and froze. It was Chief Uzechukwu. He wasn't alone. He had come with two women dressed in expensive lace and gold earrings. He called them his wives, though the whole village knew he lived alone. Behind them stood a man in suit and sunglasses. Uzechukwu wore a white senator suit with red beads around his neck and held a gift bag. "I have come in peace," he said loudly, so the neighbors could hear. "I brought something small for Mama and the girl." Adogo didn't open the door. She turned to call her grandmother, but before she could speak, Mama Muoha was already standing behind her like a shadow. The old woman pushed the door open and stepped outside. "You brought your poison to my compound," she said in a flat voice. "Return it." Chief Uzechukwu laughed nervously, pretending not to be shaken. "Mama, why do you hate progress?" "I just came to help. I heard your granddaughter is very intelligent. I want to sponsor her education, send her to the university, maybe even abroad. You know I have people in high places." "You are a man of low places pretending to be high," Mama Muoha responded. "Your gold is bought with tears, and your perfume cannot cover your rot." The entire compound fell silent. Even the birds stopped singing. One of his women stepped forward, trying to calm the tension. "Mama, please, we are only showing love." "Silence." Mama Muoha snapped, pointing her crooked finger. "You dance in the dark and drink from poison wells. When the spirits come to collect, no makeup will save your face." Chief Uzachukwu's smile slowly disappeared. His charm began to heat up in his pocket, warning him of spiritual danger. He bowed slightly and turned to leave. But as he stepped out of the compound, Mama Muoha said one last thing that made his feet freeze. "Your right hand is already dying, Uzechukwu. It will not see the next new moon unless you confess." He didn't turn back. He couldn't. His right hand had started to itch violently under his expensive watch. That night, Chief Uzechukwu locked all the doors of his mansion. He sat alone in the center of his massive living room, surrounded by charms, candles, and strange drawings on the floor written in blood mixed with palm oil. His wives had left earlier in fear. They said his eyes were changing. His skin was itching. And his right hand, it had started to peel. Not like a skin disease, but like the slow shedding of something that had overstayed its welcome. He tried to chant the incantations the Dibia gave him, but the words were broken. His tongue twisted, his throat dried, and when he called the spirits that normally appeared, none came. Something was blocking the connection. He looked at the mirror again. This time, the surface was black, no reflection, no spirit, just darkness. Panic gripped his heart. The charm had never failed him before. His phone rang suddenly, making him jump. It was his eldest daughter, Amoka, calling from the UK. Her voice was trembling. "Papa. Papa, something is wrong. Since yesterday, strange birds have been flying around my house. Black birds. They don't leave. And my son, Chibuzo, he collapsed today. The doctors can't explain what's wrong." Chief Uzachukwu's throat tightened. His sins were crossing borders. He muttered quickly, "Don't worry, my daughter. I will handle it." But even as he spoke, he knew what was happening. The power that once shielded him was now cracking. His evil was no longer contained. It had started spilling into places it shouldn't reach. For years, He thought he was protected because he didn't harm his own blood. But the charm never promised loyalty. It only promised wealth, for a price. And once the price stopped being paid, it collected what it could. He quickly turned to his shrine in the room, lit another candle, and began to call on the spirit of the charm. Take anyone else. I will find another girl. I will break the old woman's protection. Just leave my children out of this. But the flame blew out by itself. And then, from the darkest corner of the room, a shadow rose, tall, formless, and cold. It had no eyes, but he knew it was watching him. Then it spoke, not in words, but straight into his mind. You broke the law. The girl is chosen. Her soul cannot be taken. Her blood carries judgment. The circle is closing. Prepare for exposure. He screamed. He picked up his cane and smashed the mirror. Pieces flew everywhere, one slicing his cheek. Blood dripped to the floor. He fell to his knees. And for the first time in decades, Chief Uzechukwu wept. He knew now, the spirits were no longer serving him. They were waiting to devour him. The next morning, Adogo woke up drenched in sweat. Her sleep had been filled with strange dreams, visions of old trees bleeding, mirrors shattering in the sky, and a man with no eyes crawling toward her with chains in his hands. She couldn't breathe. Her body felt like it had been fighting in the spirit. She rose slowly, wiping her face with the hem of her wrapper. The entire house was quiet, but her grandmother was nowhere to be found. On the kitchen floor was a large white chalk circle with 3 fresh kola nuts in the center, one of them cracked open. A sign. Mama Moho had gone into the forest. She always did this when danger was near. Adogo stepped outside into the morning sun, but even the birds didn't sing that day. She walked slowly toward the stream to fetch water, hoping to clear her head. But as she approached the water's edge, she stopped. In the reflection of the stream, she saw herself, then behind her, the image of the man from her dream. She turned quickly, but there was no one. When she looked back into the water again, her reflection was no longer her own. She saw herself dressed in white, glowing, seated on a stool in the center of a massive circle of women with shaved heads, singing in a language she didn't understand. The vision shifted again, now showing Chief Uzechukwu lying on the floor, surrounded by fire, his right hand burning to ashes. Adogo stumbled back, terrified. She dropped her calabash and ran back toward the house. When she reached the compound, Mama Moho was already waiting at the gate, her face calm but her eyes fierce. You have seen it, she said simply. Adogo nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Mama, what is happening to me? What did I see in the water? Why me? Mama Moho sighed deeply and took her hand. Because your time has come, NWAM. The spirits have chosen to reveal what you carry. You are not just my granddaughter. You are the reincarnation of Adeabi the seer, the last daughter of the sacred hill. You were born with sight. The kind that reveals what is hidden, the kind that breaks chains, the kind that calls judgment. Adogo blinked in confusion. But I'm just an ordinary girl. No, Mama interrupted. You are the one who will end the curse that has taken so many lives. And now, the man who eats destinies has touched your shadow. He has invited his own end. The air around them shifted. Wind blew, though the trees didn't move. The ancestors were listening. Mama Moho looked to the sky. He has dug his pit. Soon, he will fall into it. Far across the hills of the village, beyond the banana plantations and through the sacred forest path, stood a tiny, forgotten shrine with moss-covered stones and rusted iron gongs. Many thought it was abandoned. Many believed its priest had died. But deep inside, in the hollow of an ancient tree, sat an old man with skin as dark as roasted yam and eyes whiter than the moon. His name was Enz Okafor, the last surviving priest of the order that once protected the destinies of maidens from dark men like Chief Uzochukwu. For 40 years, he had lived in hiding, exiled by corrupt chiefs who feared the truth he carried. But today, the air had changed. The winds told him that the curse of the devourer was near its end. He had seen the signs in his dreams, the eagle crying blood, the palm tree bending at midnight, and the girl with eyes like storm. She had awakened. He rose from the floor slowly, his joints stiff, his bones tired, but his spirit alert. He took out a wrapped bundle of goat skin from a clay pot, opened it, and revealed a carved wooden tablet. On the tablet was the prophecy written in CBD. When the eater touches the chosen, his chain will turn to fire. The seer will rise from silence, and justice shall walk barefoot. He had memorized those words years ago but never believed he would live to see their fulfillment. He poured libation on the ground, calling the names of the ancestors. Umu Ens, Umu Aya, Umu Ndaiki, arise. The time of reckoning has come. The daughter of Adeabi is awake. The one who eats stars must be buried by the very stars he stole. Then he reached for a bell, one carved with the face of a crying child. He hadn't rung it in decades. It was the bell that summoned lost destinies. As he rang it 3 times, the ground trembled faintly. From far and near, the souls of girls whose destinies had been stolen began to stir in the spirit realm. They had waited long enough. At that exact moment, in Chief Uzochukwu's mansion, all the lights went off. His generator refused to start. The air grew heavy. And from the mirror in his bathroom, he saw the face of a girl he took 6 years ago, Irena, the choir member from Soccer who died without warning after he helped her. Her spirit was weeping. Then another face appeared. And another. And another. The dead were beginning to gather. He fell to the floor, clutching his chest. His charm ring began to burn his finger. He yanked it off, but it was too late. The ring screamed. Not out loud. But inside his soul. For 3 nights, Adogo did not sleep. Not because she wasn't tired, but because each time her eyelids closed, the spirit world opened its gates to her. Faces of crying girls appeared. Voices of the past whispered her name. Sometimes she saw herself walking barefoot on a burning path, surrounded by shadows. Other times, she stood in front of a massive tree whose roots bled blood, while a voice called her, Daughter of Thunder. On the 3rd night, Mama Moha came into her room holding a wooden bowl filled with palm fronds, cowries, and 3 burning charcoal pieces. It is time, she said. Time for what, Mama? Adogo asked, her voice shaking. To know who you are. They walked deep into the forest, through a narrow path lined with whispering trees. The night was thick, but the stars above burned bright like eyes watching the world. They reached an old clearing surrounded by 12 stones. In the center was a shallow pit filled with rainwater. Mama Moha pointed to it. Kneel. Adogo obeyed. Now look into the water and speak your name 3 times. She hesitated, then said softly, Adogo. Adogo. Ada. Before she could finish, the water in the pit began to swirl. Then it turned golden. Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the clearing, though no leaves moved. The charcoal in Mama's bowl sparked into blue flames. Then the voice came. Not from above. Not from the earth. But from inside her. I am Adeabi reborn. I am the thunder that cracks the chain. I am the eye that sees through the masquerade. I am the gate. Adogo gasped as power surged through her body. Her eyes rolled back, and she fell into a trance. In that moment, she saw a vision of her grandmother as a young priestess, fighting off a dark spirit in the form of a man. She saw the spirits of all the girls Chief Uzochukwu had consumed over the years, trapped in jars buried under a shrine. And then she saw him, kneeling naked in his mansion, scratching at his chest as his skin began to break open like dry clay. She woke up screaming. Mama Mooha held her tightly. What you saw is real, she said calmly. Your soul has opened. You are now the key. Adogo shook, her whole body trembling. Mama. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. Her grandmother gently lifted her chin. Neither did the girls he destroyed. But fate doesn't ask. It chooses. And it has chosen you. Lightning cracked in the sky, though the night was dry and cloudless. A sign. The spirits had accepted her. Adogo had now crossed the line between girl and seer. Between victim and avenger. At exactly midnight, Chief Yuzachuku ran through his mansion barefoot, shouting for help. But no one came. His guards had all disappeared. His cook had packed and left 2 days ago. Even his so-called wives no longer answered his calls. He was alone. And the spirits knew it. He ran to his private altar and poured libation, screaming into the darkness. "O genie! What is this? Where are my protectors? Where is the spirit of Onwudigu? Where is my power?" But the only answer he got was laughter. Not human. Not loud. Just the soft echo of mockery, coming from the walls. He turned sharply and saw the cracks. Small at first. Then spreading. All around him, the walls of his house, his mansion of pride, were beginning to crack. Thin white lines crawled like veins through the marble tiles, the walls, and even the ceilings. He touched one and pulled back quickly. It was warm. He ran to his car, trying to escape the house. But the car wouldn't start. His right hand, now half black and smelling of decay, refused to grip the key. He cried out, "I need a new girl. I can still offer. Let me offer one more, I beg you." But this time, even the demons that used to answer him went silent. He stumbled back inside and picked up his gold-plated phone. With shaking hands, he dialed a strange number, the Dibia's private line. It rang once. Then a voice answered, but not the one he expected. "Chief Yuzachuku," it said. "Come. Clear. Female. Who is this? Where is the Dibia?" The voice chuckled softly. "The one you seek has been silenced. He now eats dust with those he sent below." "What? What are you saying? Who are you?" "I am the voice of those you buried. I am the breath of the stolen. I am the cry in the wombs you emptied. Your time has reached its neck." He dropped the phone. It melted in his hand. Then all the lights in the house exploded one by one. Glass flew like rain. Mirrors shattered. The air grew heavy with the smell of firewood and blood. On the wall, written in what looked like ashes, were 4 words. "Your walls are falling." Meanwhile, in Mama Mooha's compound, Adogo sat with her eyes closed. Her hands rested on her knees. Around her were 12 white candles in a circle. Her skin glowed faintly. Her breath was deep and steady. And her voice spoke in the ancient tongue of the hill priestesses. She wasn't just seeing visions anymore. She was sending them. For the first time since Chief Yuzachuku began his dark trade, the power of a true seer had risen against him. The haunted had turned the mirror. The devourer was now devoured by fear. Back in the sacred shrine deep in the forest, Enz Okafor sat before the ancient mirror known only to the priesthood as Onyundu, the eye of the living. Few had ever gazed into it and survived. It did not show the future. It did not show the past. It revealed truth, the raw, burning, unfiltered truth of a man's soul. The mirror had not been used in over 50 years, since the last devourer was judged. But tonight, the mirror awoke. Its surface began to tremble like disturbed water. Enz Okafor opened his frail eyes and began to chant. As he waved white feathers over the sacred tablet, a face began to appear. Chief Yuzachuku. But not the smiling, flamboyant man the village knew. No, this image was twisted. His skin was peeling, his once perfect beard was graying into ash. His right hand looked like rotten yam. His mouth moved, crying something unheard, and behind him stood the souls of the girls he stole from, each one holding a broken piece of their stolen destinies. Some were children. Some were pregnant. Some were just shadows. Enz Okafor wept. The priest, hardened by years of ritual, wept. Because the pain of the girls was too loud. He rose slowly, walked to the shrine's carved drum, and struck it 3 times. The echo went far. Through hills. Through trees. Through time. In Mama Mooha's compound, Adogo heard the sound and opened her eyes. "What was that?" she whispered. Mama Mooha stood still, face lifted. "That was the drum of remembrance. The priest has seen. The council of the unborn has called a trial." "A trial?" Adogo asked, her voice trembling. "Yes. Not in the village court. Not by the elders of men. But in the circle where blood speaks. The place where secrets confess themselves." Adogo felt her heart beat louder. "Will I be there?" Mama Mooha nodded slowly. "You are the witness. Without your voice, the mirror will not weep. And if the mirror does not weep, the chains cannot be broken." That night, the skies over Umoji changed color. The stars flickered red. The moon dimmed. And in Chief Uzochukwu's dreams, he found himself standing naked in the center of a wide courtroom without a roof. 12 thrones surrounded him, each holding a faceless figure made of light and wind. Then he heard the voice of a child he buried 6 years ago. "Tell them what you did." He tried to run, but there was no ground. Only his guilt. Only the mirror. And it was watching him. The forest was alive. Not with animals or insects, but with spirits. The air was thick, the trees bent low as if they were listening. Adogo walked barefoot beside her grandmother toward the circle of judgment, a hidden grove known only to the descendants of the seers. In her hands she held a small clay pot filled with water from the tears of widows, a symbol of innocence stolen. The trial was not for the living, it was for truth. At the center of the circle stood the mirror of tears, glowing like the moon, surrounded by 12 ancestral spirits clothed in light and wind. Chief Uzochukwu appeared, dragged by unseen hands, naked and afraid. He tried to speak, but his voice was bound. From the mirror, the spirits of the girls he had destroyed began to step forward. Urena, Chioma, Adis, Ifenanya, one by one, they stood. And when they spoke, the forest wept. The air itself cried out in pain. Adogo stepped forward, her voice steady. "I am the eye that sees. I call forth justice, not for revenge, but to heal what was broken." The sky thundered. Lightning cracked. And the mirror of tears wept. A beam of light shot into the sky. Chief Uzochukwu screamed as the spirits of the girls surrounded him, pulling his soul away piece by piece. His body crumbled into ashes, his right hand last to fall. 1 year later, Umoji was never the same. The shrine was restored. The elders, ashamed of their silence, honored Mama Mooha and Adogo. The school built by Chief Uzochukwu was renamed Adis Memorial School for Girls. Every year, the village held a remembrance ceremony, not for the chief, but for the girls who were taken too soon. Adogo, now a full seer, began a center for young girls, teaching them not only reading and writing, but how to listen to the spirit inside them. She married a humble teacher who loved her deeply, and together they raised a generation of daughters who would never be silenced again. As for Chief Uzochukwu, his ashes were never buried. The wind scattered him across the land as a warning. His wealth gone. His family silent. His name a curse in the village. And every time it rained, the people said it was the girls dancing. The end. Please do well to subscribe, like and comment the lesson you have learnt in this story.